What's up, guys? Colton Richardson here, a personal injury lawyer and former prosecutor, and Alex Murdaugh trials, day 20, 4 full weeks into this trial, and the state actually rested today. And so the state is done with their evidence. They have completed it, and the defendants actually get to start their case in chief. And so let's dive right into what's been going on and start watching it. And we start with the second witness of the day, and that is, I think, what is his name? Because they had two witnesses, and this is actually the OnStar data. And so this witness's name is Peter Rudofsky. And so the OnStar data, they requested this data over a year ago. So the state subpoenaed from General Motors OnStar data on Alex Murdaugh's vehicle, and they said it doesn't exist. And a year later, last Friday, they actually said this data does exist, and here it is, and gave it and to the prosecution. And the state wants to admit that evidence, and the defense actually wants it in as well. And so there was no objection. Sometimes if evidence becomes available in the middle of a trial, the judge will not let it come in, but there are some exceptions. And in this situation, both sides wanted the OnStar data to come in. And so the judge decided, okay, that's fine. It's coming in. And so Rudofsky is actually the witness who's testifying as to the OnStar data. And this is important as the timeline's important. And so that's who this witness is. So let's jump right in. Here we go. Let me know if you have any questions or comments. Drop them in the comments, and I love to answer anything you guys have.
Raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that any testimony you give today will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth shall help you God? If you would please be seated, state your full name for the record, and spell your last name, okay? Thank you.
Special Agent Peter Rudofsky, that's Rudofski,
Right.
and it's pronounced Rudolph and then ski.
Oh, maybe not. There's an L?
All right, Special Agent Rudolph, how you doing today?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm good. If you would, tell the jury just a little bit about yourself. Give us a little quick history of where you grew up, where you went to school, and how you ultimately ended up with your current position.
I'm originally from Oakland County, Michigan, Metro Detroit area. Became a reserve deputy in 2015, a reserve officer with Bay City Department of Public Safety while I was attending Saginaw Valley State University to get my bachelor's degree. And then went on to work at Oakland County Sheriff's Office as a special deputy. Graduated in 2017 at Saginaw Valley State University with a criminal justice degree. And then in 2017, moved to South Carolina, worked for the Department of Public Safety. In 2020, came to the South Carolina Law Enforcement Division, where I am currently. Began in the undercover vice unit, worked in the undercover vice unit until October of 22, where I currently am a special agent assigned to investigative services.
All right, and that was when again?
That was October of 22 is when I have my new position.
At some point in that position in SLED Investigative Services, did you get involved in the investigation of the murders of Maggie and Paul Murdaugh at Moselle?
I did. November of 21 is when I was brought on to assist the Low Country region with this case.
November of 21 or November of 22?
21.
And let's talk a little bit more just about some of the experience you've had as a law enforcement officer. Have you had any experience with or had any training with using the FBI CAST program?
I did. I took a basic 16-hour cell site analysis course, which allowed me to use their system CAST Viz, which is what if you saw Matt Wild's presentation, the mapping system and the plotting, it allows me to use that system and kind of do a basic level operation of it.
And what has been your primary focus of your involvement, at least in the investigation after you got involved in November 2021? And to be fair, that was November 2021. You were not working in investigative services when Moselle event happened in June of 21. Is that correct?
That is correct.
So when you came on in November of 21, what's kind of been one of your main focuses and main assignments?
The main focus was to take all of the various forms of data. There's, a lot of phones, a lot of different data, and take all of that and put it into a readable timeline that you could start from, the beginning of the day to the end of the day and see everything with all those different phones and different, media sources all in one document.
Stand by for me just real quick.
So they're actually going to introduce a timeline, which is very nice. Gathers all the information from this whole trial, puts in a nice timeline. Hopefully they'll
And I'm
admit
going to
it.
show you what's already been admitted into evidence as a defense exhibit 60 that was entered a long time ago in this trial. And do you recognize that? It's already in evidence.
I do.
All right. And what is that? Tell the jury what that is, please.
This would have been a rough draft or working draft of my timeline. I have a date of 1/12/23 at 3 p.m.
Where's
an
the-
updated time on this.
Where's the final one?
And that was, who prepared that document though, that was put in by the defense?
This was prepared by myself.
And was that provided to the defense that a week or so or sometime prior to trial?
It was.
All right. And on that particular document, does it say that it is a working draft?
It does on the top here. It's going to have in yellow working draft. And then as you go through the document, it's going to have the same yellow on the top working draft and draft across the document.
All right. And as you have, how long you been working on this document right here?
Roughly about a year on this document.
Gee.
And as new data came in, new data has been analyzed from various sources that have been put forward to this jury. Has that been incorporated into your timeline here?
It has.
All right. And since the time that this was initially prepared, has there been additional information added to it and that document continued to be worked on?
There has.
All right. And has that been provided to the defense as well?
It has.
Interesting. So why didn't they introduce the final one? So is he going to introduce the final one? Kind of shows that the defense is trying to hide
What's been
something.
marked as States 520 and see if you recognize this document.
I do. This is going to be the full timeline. This is going to be the latest copy.
And I'm going to show you what's been marked as 519. And do you recognize that document?
I do.
All right, and tell the jury what that is.
This is going to be a condensed timeline of this document here. Instead of having the whole day, it's going to have roughly from 6 p.m. to 11 p.m. on June 7th,
2021.
2021.
Your Honor, this time I would offer States 519 and 520 into evidence. No objection.
Yeah, I admit it.
All right, we're going to get back to those in a second. All right, now you mentioned before that you had some training in using the FBI CAS program. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And during the course of this investigation, actually fairly recently, did additional information come in related to what you've been working on?
That is correct.
And explain that to the jury. What information came in?
So on Friday, I received a call.
Which Friday?
Would have been last
Yeah, I was about to say it was last Friday, literally a week ago.
Friday, from Attorney General Conrad that GM discovered some new data. I initially did a search warrant back in March of last year. No data was returned to us from OnStar. We get a call saying that they have data and that they're going to be sending it to me. I received an email on this past Saturday with 3 Excel files of data from GM.
All right, and tell the jury generally what was that data?
There was a lot of data in it. Mostly it was a lot of latitude and longitude plots. There was speed data in there and a lot of data that when you start your car up, you might see like your engine lights and all that, those codes and stuff. A lot of the codes was on the data.
All right. And for what vehicle was this for?
This is for the 2021 Suburban driven by Alex Murdaugh.
Had GM previously responded to law enforcement inquiry that there was no such data?
That is correct. All we got was basic subscriber data for OnStar.
And when had they responded with that information?
I believe it was March 18th
Of
of 2022.
2022.
Yes.
And then during the course of this trial, they contacted and said, oh, wait, we found something.
That is correct.
All right, and since that time, have you downloaded that data into the CAS program and analyzed it in that fashion?
I have the CAS data is pretty much a tool that you can take different latitude, longitude, and different kind of data points, put it in the system in an Excel file, and it pretty much plots it and paints a nice picture for you.
That's awesome.
And you have you worked in this case as you've been synthesizing the data from various sources? Have you worked or synthesized the data that came from engineer Falfusky with the FBI?
Yes, sir.
And remind the jury who Falfusky is again, please.
He is a vehicle engineer from the FBI out of Washington, D.C., and he's the one that took the telemetry unit out of Alex Murdaugh Suburban, and he took all the data and recreated that, the year-long process to get all the data extracted that he previously testified on.
All right, and is that telemetry data generally synthesized or summarized along with other data in your timelines that are admitted into evidence?
Yes, it is.
Can you compare for the jury the difference between what the telemetry that engineer Falfusky did and the OnStar data that GM recently provided?
The biggest difference you're going to see is on the telemetry data. If you remember, there was that Excel spreadsheet with all the different colors on it. It would show vehicle going into drive or park, moving, propulsion, that kind of stuff. The data we got back from OnStar is mostly a lot of latitude and longitude and speed and different kind of codes and whatnot. There wasn't really any location data in the FBI data. I don't believe there was any for that day. I believe it was all before. But we have mostly, GPS coordinates and whatnot. That's the biggest difference that you're going to see between the reports.
All right. And was the OnStar data recently received generally consistent with the telemetry data that had been developed by the FBI and Falfusky?
It was.
Just more specific?
Just more specific.
All right. I'm going to show you what's been marked as States 524 to this trial and see if you recognize this document.
I do.
All right. And tell the jury what this is, please.
This was a presentation I created that is based on the GM OnStar data that was received last week for 6/7 of 21 for a 2021 Chevrolet Suburban.
Your Honor, at this time I would offer in the evidence States 524.
Submitted.
All right, I'm gonna, if I could have a computer input, please.
Yeah, that
I'm gonna
timeline
go ahead and put Exhibit 524 up on the screen.
is going to be key.
The one we
'cause
just
the
admitted.
jury can take that back into the deliberations, and they will definitely be referencing it. That way, they didn't have to take notes this whole entire time. And that timeline is super nice. I'm actually looking at it right now.
All right, is this the 524 exhibit we just put into evidence?
That is correct.
All right, and that's
Oh,
your
the
name up there,
OnStar
and
data.
it's got the CAS program and everything, is that right?
That is correct.
All right, moving on to this next slide, and can you see all right up there?
I can.
All right, if your little screen becomes hard to see, just let me know, and we can have you come down here and look at the big one. All right, what's up on this slide? Tell us what this represents to the jury.
What you're going to see up on the slide is going to be 3 file names that were received from GM. These are all 3 Excel files. This is what they were labeled to us from GM.
And what does this slide look like?
This is an overview. Do you mind if I step down?
Yeah.
Point out? This is going to be an overview slide here. Top point is going to be Moselle, the Moselle house property. Bottom left, we're going to have Hampton. Far right is going to be Almeda. There are 4,820 data points that make up these lines here. When you zoom in a couple more slides, you're going to see the individual dots. This is kind of like an overlay of all of those dots.
Right.
But just for reference, that's where we're at in the map.
And just very quickly, tell the jury, when we're talking about these dots, is that what the CAS report did? Is plot the dots based on the data provided by GM OnStar?
That is correct.
Looks like it's
Each dot is going to represent a latitude and longitude.
first time Alex is seeing it.
Did you have to manually enter in all 4,820, or how does that work?
I did not. The nice thing about the CAS system is it takes the Excel, you put it all in an Excel spreadsheet, and it does all that for you. Kind of like Google Earth would do in comparison.
All right, this next slide, what is that?
This is the same slide. It's just showing on a different, the last one was like a Google Earth kind of view photo. This is just a regular like map photo. It kind of just says, the location's a little bit easier to read. You got Hampton, Almeda, then you can see Islandton.
Go on to this slide. Is this just a general representation where you can see some of the individual dots?
This is going to be the general overview of Moselle. Each little dot is going to either have a single set of data points or multiple set of data points. And this is for the whole day. This is not just for a certain time period. This is going to be for the whole day of June 7th, 2021.
All right. And then again, generally, what does this represent?
This is going to represent in Hampton around the law firm. Each dot is either a single set of data points or multiple set of data points. It's just kind of zoomed in photo from what we saw previously.
And that's
Which is-
the defendant's former law firm?
That is correct.
Wish there's times on
And
them.
what does this represent?
This is going to be the Almeda property that's been referred to previously. And this is just showing a overview of all the dots for that day.
All right, we're about to get into some slides that have very specific references to dots. And just generally, what are you about to go through with the jury as the specific data points that you're about to relate to them?
So for this presentation, we're going to go through all the different drives that occurred that day. You're going to have a data point and a slide that's going to show you the beginning, a couple slides during the drive, and then at the end.
This is a great way
We're
to
going to have
end
a couple different drives that we'll be walking through.
the end states.
All right, now we're at this slide. What's the title of this slide?
This is Alex leaving for work.
All right, and tell the jury, what image do we see right here on the screen?
So what you're looking at, this is going to be the property 4147 Moselle Road. This is going to be the main entrance. And you can see underneath the little box is going to be the house. You're going to see on the date, it's going to say June 7th, 2021. And this plot is going to be 120647.
Here's the times.
Is that what time the Suburban got underway, according to the GM OnStar data?
That is correct. It does match up.
Moving to this next slide, what does this represent?
This next slide is representing his vehicle making a right onto Moselle Road during his drive.
All right, what time is that?
The time is 12:07:40 p.m.
All right, come on down here if you would, just real quick, and explain to the jury this box, and in particular, if there's a little arrow on this box, point that out to them so that they can understand specifically what's being referenced with the blue and white box.
So anytime you see a blue box here, it's a little hard to see, but the little kind of triangle down here, that's where it's pointing to on which red dot it is referring to. So anytime you see the box, look for that little triangle, and that's going to tell you the area that the vehicle, the latitude, longitude correlates with.
All right, we'll have to borrow the stick real quick. So this little blue triangle right there is what we're talking about,
That is correct.
and it's pointing to that little red dot there. Is that right?
That's correct.
And we're not going to go through all 4,820 dots, but just representative dots of these various trips. Is that
That
correct?
is correct.
All right.
I just want to point out quickly, you might see a couple other data points that could be for another trip. Sometimes they have the same latitude and longitude, but different times. So you might see a couple different data points, but that's an explanation for that.
All right. And then the one that's highlighted, though, is the one that's the information is being referred to right there. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And right here, we see what?
You see June 7th, 2021,
All right. And then-
12:07:40 seconds p.m.
All right, thank you.
We're always being tracked. It's crazy. The amount of data that they have.
All right. Before we move on to the next slide, what's the car doing at this point in time?
The car is moving.
All right. And what location is it? Just generally an orientation to the property,
Moselle Road coming out of that main gate,
that driveway?
main driveway.
Moving on to the next one, what does this represent?
This is 12:07:42, and this is representing, you're going to see a mile per hour is going to be the new line that just showed up. And this is showing 12 miles an hour the vehicle's traveling.
Generally on these blue boxes is the little arrow at the bottom. is that kind of in the center bottom in most of these little blue boxes, blue and white boxes?
That is correct.
All right, and some of the entries have a miles per hour rating, is that correct?
That is correct.
And that's being recorded by the vehicle and by GM OnStar?
And it's being uploaded to their servers.
All right. And so what was the speed of the defendant's vehicle at this time?
Approximately 12 miles an hour.
Now, on here, it's in reference to miles per hour because we're Americans. But the data that you got, what unit was it in?
Kilometers.
All right. And so did you convert that data to miles per hour?
In an Excel spreadsheet, yes.
All right. And just plugged in what the conversion is and it converted to miles per hour.
Yep, you do the equal sign, then you do the conversion, and it converts for you.
All right. All right, going on to this next slide. Is this still on the trip that morning to the law, or that afternoon to the law firm?
That is correct.
All right, and very quickly tell the jury where we're at.
We are still on Moselle Road. We're past the Godly Farms Road, which would be another reference point.
And that's the residence up here at the top.
That is correct.
All right, that's the kennels way up at the very top.
That is correct.
All right, what is the date and time of this reading?
12:08:30, and that is showing approximately 55 miles an hour.
Okay. All right, tell me about this next one.
This is still on the drive to the law firm. This is showing at 12:16 on the dot, and we're showing approximately 60 miles an hour driven.
And where is the arrow on this particular one?
So on this box, the arrow is actually going to be on top, and it's pointing to one of the data points.
Speed again?
Approximately 60 miles an hour.
Going on to slide 13 for the record, what does this reflect?
This is reflecting coming into Hampton to the law firm. And this is actually, if you look, it's pretty much right on top of the law firm. It's 12:21:37, and we have no speed associated.
All right, and then the next slide, slide 14.
This is 12:24:06 with no speed reported. This is when he's arriving. This is the last data point I could find.
All right, so he's arrived at work at that time, correct?
That is correct.
12:46?
12:24:06.
Going to this next slide, explain to the jury what this is, and we're slide 15.
So after each drive, we're going to have a slide that's going to show a max speed from all the data sets on Excel. The max speed for his drive from Moselle to the law firm that morning was 12:13:19. The max speed was 65.8 miles per hour, and the average speed of that whole drive was 37.24 miles an hour, and that time was at 12:13:19 during his drive.
All right, we're moving now to slide 16. Tell the jury what this represents.
This one's going to represent Alex leaving work at the law firm, heading to his house. It shows at 6:24:18, and it shows him going 8 miles an hour, just starting to leave.
PM
PM.
and the speed
Approximately 8 miles an hour.
going on slide 17.
This one's showing at 6:26:54 p.m. It's showing his Suburban going approximately 42 miles an hour on his drive home. The arrow is going to be on the top right.
And
It
the
might
speed.
cut off a little bit. 42 miles an hour.
All right, and then is that the arrow right there?
That is correct.
All right, at the top,
The top of the screen.
about 42 miles an hour.
That is correct.
Slide 18, what does this reflect?
This is going to reflect at Alex arriving home at 6:42:54 with a miles per hour of 0. This is one of the last data points that without speed.
6:42 p.m. arriving back at the residence,
That is correct.
and the arrow is pointing to what?
The residence. A little bit to the side, but it's the residence right there.
All right, and tell the jury now on slide 19, what does this represent?
So this is going to be from his drive home from the law firm to Moselle. It represents at 6:34:01 during his drive. The max speed obtained was 54.4 miles per hour. The average speed during this drive was 41.39 miles an hour. And you can see the location somewhere off of, I believe, 63.
Driving home, what was his max speed?
54.4 miles per hour was the max speed driving home.
All right, slide 20.
All right, so now we're at where Alex is leaving for Almeda. This is going to be 9:07:06 p.m.
Okay.
These are very well.
Again, we'll go through the timeline in a bit, but is this
Very good
generally
slides.
consistent with some of the telemetry data that Falfosky did?
It is
Suburban goes underway at what time?
9:07:06 according to this data.
Moving on to the next slide.
Like previous
Where's the Suburban at this point?
Like previous slides, this is going to be the Suburban pulling out onto Moselle Road, coming right out of the main entrance, going about 15 miles an hour. This is going to be at 9:08:06.
What do we have right here?
This is going to be 9:08:18 with speeds approximately 37 miles an hour.
I just wonder where they're
Where's the Suburban heading at this point?
Towards Almeda.
All right, slide 23. We have a reference point here. Can you explain what that is to the jury?
So the orange dot, that's going to represent approximately where Maggie Murdaugh's phone was located the following day on June 8th, 2021.
That's really
And
interesting.
we have a time reference for the Suburban at this time?
We do. It's going to be 9:08:36 seconds, and it's showing a speed of 42 miles an hour.
Moving on to the next one. Tell the jury what this is.
In the grayish white looking box, you can still see the little circle where it says Maggie Murdaugh's phone location. And right under it's where the pinpoint's going to be. It's going to be 9:08:36, 42 miles an hour.
Next slide, 25. Slide 25.
The upper halfway portion of that box, you're going to see the circle again, the orange circle. That's going to be Maggie Murdaugh's phone. And at 9:08:42, we have the Suburban traveling approximately 45 miles an hour.
After passing that location, does the defendant's vehicle start to accelerate?
It does.
Going to slide 26. Tell us what this references.
So we also have Maggie Murdaugh's phone location. This is just another data point. There's several throughout the road. This one is showing 9:08:54, 44 miles an hour.
Slide 27.
This is going to show you another overview of this data point in location to Maggie Murdaugh's phone. 9:08:54, 44 miles an hour.
I could have made these a little prettier, a little easier to
Slide
understand.
28.
This one's further down the road past Godley Farms Road, just for a reference point. This is 9:09:06, traveling 48.6 miles per hour.
Slide 29.
This is another data point in reference to where the phone location is. 9:09:18 p.m., traveling 49 miles per hour.
And slide 30.
This is going to be another data point at 9:09:18, traveling approximately 52 miles an hour.
Slide 31.
This is also going to be another one on Moselle Road, coming up to Dobson Road. It's going to be 9:09:24 p.m., traveling approximately 52 miles an hour.
And then
Getting up.
slide 32.
This is also going to be another data point on that road, 9:09:42, traveling approximately 54 miles an hour on Moselle Road.
All right, going to slide 33. Has our sort of map orientation changed?
It has. This is still on the drive to Almeda. I believe this is going to be 63 or Snyder's Highway or Walterboro Highway. This is at 9:13:30 p.m., showing a speed of 68 miles an hour on that drive to Almeda.
All right. And I'm going back to slide 3. Do that real quick.
One thing that's good in questioning a witness is telling them what you're going to tell them, then tell them, and then tell them what you told them. And that's good for any speaking.
And the slide that we were just seeing when the orientation changes, can you come down real quick and kind of describe generally what we were looking at when we started and then the where we're at on that slide that we were just about to look at?
That's basically what he's trying to
All
do.
right,
is
so where
tell
we
a
started
story.
on this drive would have been right up here, 4147 Moselle Road. 4147 Moselle Road. This would have been Moselle Road that we We just showed all those data points, but it made a right onto Dobson Road and then a right onto 63 Snyder's Highway. It's approximately somewhere around here on Snyder's Highway where that data point you just looked at.
All right, returning to slide 33. All right,
And right there is going to be approximately where the data point is at.
okay. And what's the speed there?
68.7 miles per hour.
Going on to slide 34.
This is going to be at 9:14:36, showing approximate speed of 69.4 miles per hour. It's going to be on the top portion.
All right, moving on to slide 35.
This is going to be at 9:16:48, showing approximately 70 miles an hour. It's going to be the top portion of your screen here, coming into Varnville.
I wish they made it.
And down at the bottom center of the screen, what is that? Right here.
That is going to be the Almeda property, and just to reference, this is going to be coming into Varnville.
All right, right here, what do we have on slide 36?
This is going to be the Almeda property. You can kind of see it behind the other record part, but it's showing at 9:22:06. The Suburban's pulling, making a left into the Almeda property.
Slide 37, what do we see here? First of all, orient the jury as to what the map image reflects, and then describe the data point, please.
So the map image is going to reflect, you're going to make a left into the driveway. There's a railroad track, I believe here. It's a curved driveway coming in, and then right here is going to be the house. There's a little carport right here, and then the driveway is this whitish part that you see on your screen.
All right, and then up here, generally in the property, we can see a roof and that sort of thing. What generally are those?
Those are going to be some outbuildings on the property. The trees are there's a decent amount of trees right here, but there's, I believe, 2 outbuildings right here.
This white area right here just above the house, what is that?
That's going to be where you would park. It's a paved area in front of the carports.
Where do the data points reflect the Suburban going, though, when it arrives?
The data points for the Suburban, it looks like it went toward like a little bit into the grass, closer to the wood line over here. And that's going to be at 9:22:39.
Closer to the wood line and the outbuildings?
That'd be correct.
All right, and again, what time is the arrival at Almeda?
9:22:39. And this is just, so that this right here is going to be a better overview without the
box.
The box. You can see right here is going to be the driveway leading in. This is where a carport would be, where the vehicles would be parked. And then this is the main house here. And you have your outbuildings.
Right here, we have kind of a line of data points right there in the grassy area behind the house.
We do.
All right, going on to slide 39, tell the jury what those calculations represent, please.
So this is going to represent the drive from Moselle to Almeda. During that drive, the Suburban reached a max speed of 74.4 miles per hour during that drive and averaged 51.94 miles per hour. And this is the data point with the highest speed obtained.
Was that top speed higher than any speed he achieved when he went to work over that day?
That is correct.
Is that average speed higher than any average speed he had when he went to work that day?
That is correct.
Or returned from work?
That's correct.
Circumstantial evidence, but that doesn't necessarily tell you anything.
Let me stay down here.
You can go back up. Okay.
Oh, got my eye.
That max speed again is what on the trip to Almeda?
74.4 miles per hour.
And the time again that he
9.
arrived?
At Almeda,
Yes.
I believe it's going to be 9:20.
Let me back up.
You go back.
We're back up to?
9:22:39. So 9:22:39. He reached his max speed at 9:14:13.
On June 7th, 2021 at 9:22 p.m. is it dark?
That is correct.
All right, we've gone on to slide 40. Please tell the jury what this represents.
This is going to represent at 9:43:18. This is when we first saw movement And this would be Alex leaving Almeda en route back to 4147 Moselle Road. It's showing approximately 2 miles an hour.
All right, and the time again?
9:43:18.
The arrival time that you just testified?
That's correct.
What was the arrival time? That you
9:22,
And he's leaving at what time?
9:43,
So approximately how long?
20 minutes.
Going on to slide 41, let me ask you this. Does the data reflect that that the car pauses for a period of time while in that driveway area of Almeda?
It does, about halfway between on the driveway.
Come on down and show the jury if you will. I just sent you back. I'm sorry.
So halfway during on this. So this is a driveway right here. So this is the driveway just for reference. We see what looks like a data point, I believe, right here. And if we click on that data point, it's going to be about a minute until this data point will show up leaving the property.
I wonder which one he's pointing
And
to.
then on slide 41, we have what's the time stamp that you have on that one? And show the arrow to the jury too, please.
Yep, 9:45:22, and the arrow is going to be all the way down at the bottom, right across the railroad tracks, turning onto the MSC Highway.
At 9:45.
That is correct, 9:45:22.
All right, moving on to slide 42. Please tell the jury what this data point represents.
This slide's going to show you the drive back from Almeda to Moselle. This is just a data point on MSC Highway. It's 9:46:01, and on this one doesn't have a speed.
Going to slide 43.
This is also
Orient the jury and tell them the data point, please.
So on the bottom, you have Almeda going through Varnville and then heading up to Moselle. This is at 9:51:30. This is showing approximate speed of 74 miles an hour. It's going to be the top portion of that box.
That's the arrow at the top center.
That's correct.
Slide 44. Please tell the jury what this data point represents.
Top of the map, you're going to see Moselle. This is going to be on 63. This is going to be at 9:54:24. We have approximately 70 miles an hour.
And the arrow is located where?
It's going to be on the bottom.
Slide 45. What do you have right here?
This is going to be at 9:59:18. This is Moselle Road coming up to Godley Farms Road for reference. Top portion on the left is going to be the Moselle property. This is at 9:59:18. It's showing a speed of 57 miles an hour.
All right, we've moved on to slide 46. Tell me about that one, please.
So this is going to be the arrival into Moselle. This is showing 10 o'clock on the dot, showing 7 miles an hour, making a left into the main driveway.
10 o'clock on the dot.
That is correct.
This is kind of boring.
And slide 47.
This is about 30 seconds later. This is 10 o'clock. This is about halfway down the driveway of the main house, showing 22 miles an hour.
All right, slide 48. Tell the jury about the calculations reflected on this slide.
So this is going to be from his drive back from Almeda to Moselle Road. The max speed that was obtained during that drive was at 9:51:43 seconds, was 80 miles an hour. The average speed was 46.52 miles an hour during that drive.
Is that average speed going to also, though, include that minute where the car paused at the driveway in Almeda?
That's correct.
The top speed was what?
80.16 miles an hour.
He is hauling
Time period
butt.
would have been dark outside.
It would.
80
Let me
miles
ask
an
you
hour.
this. You're a law enforcement officer that works in this area of the state, correct?
That is
The
correct.
deer?
And have you, during the course of your law enforcement career, have to respond to emergencies or call for services and that sort of thing?
That is correct.
All right. And this particular road that we've been talking about, these roads, have they recently been paved?
They have.
And was that after the murders occurred on June 7th, 2021?
They were.
Or were you familiar with the condition of the roads and what they were like on that route prior to them being repaved?
I am.
All right. And tell the jury what running code is. If you have an emergency or a call for service, an emergency, what is running code?
Running code is where you activate your blue lights and siren and you go above the posted speed limit at a safe fashion to get to your your arrival in a safe manner.
That's when the cops turn on the lights and they're heading to the scene.
Yep, blue lights and sirens.
All right. And you're traveling as fast as you possibly can and still be reasonably safe. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And have you had call prior to this road being paved to run code down that road?
That is correct.
All right. Would you at night, or did you ever at night, on the roads as they existed at the time of June 7th, 2021, run in code with your lights on, run 80 miles an hour down that road?
I would not, no.
And why not? Tell the jury why not.
Due to the time of night,
So he could actually object because that's an opinion. It's not a fact. So the defense really should have objected right there because he's not a expert witness. And only expert witness can testify to their opinions.
the heavy deer population out there, as everyone could probably see, I mean, deer will run out all the
Deer.
time. And especially
Oh,
with
yeah.
all your lights, it attracts the deer. So it's actually worse having your blue lights on sometimes. The deer actually are kind of attracted to that light. And then also the road conditions, the road was, was a lot of potholes and
In deer.
Was the defendant's top speeds on both the trip to and from Almeda in excess of any max speed in his trips previous in the day?
that'd be correct. Posted speed limit is 55 on 63.
Deer will mess up your car, especially if you're going 80 miles an hour.
All right, we've gone on now to slide 49 and tell the jury what this represents.
This is going to be a timestamp of 10:05:06 p.m. and this is showing Alex Murdaugh leaving for the kennels.
And where's the dot on this particular slide?
The dot's going to be on the bottom towards the middle, right by the house.
Moving on to slide 50, tell me what this represents.
This is also showing the drive over to the kennels. The timestamp of this is 10:05:39.
And where's the arrow?
The arrow is going to be on the bottom. You kind of see it by the field.
All right, going on to slide 51, what does this represent?
This is just saying the max speed was obtained 28 miles an hour at 10:05:49 during that trip.
Okay. And then slide 52.
This is showing the Suburban arriving at the kennels, 10:05:57 p.m.
Do you think this evidence helps the state or Alex in his case?
And backing up still on slide 52, can you remind the jury, and we'll talk more about this with the timeline in a minute, but generally what time was the 911 call?
10:06. I do not know the seconds.
All right. And to your recollection, during the 911 call, did the defendant say he was returning back to the residence during that 911 call?
He did.
All right. And so we're on slide 53. What does this reflect?
This would be him heading back to the house around 10:11:54.
All right. Slide 54.
This is just also showing him driving back to the house at 10:12:18 p.m.
Slide 55.
It's just another slide at 10:12:30 p.m. showing 32 miles an hour.
And where's the dot?
The dot is going to be on the bottom, and it's going to be on the main drive to the house.
Slide 56.
This is going to be at 10:13:54 showing 2 miles an hour, and it's right next to the house.
All right. Slide 57.
This is just showing on that max speed from going from the kennels back to the house was at 10:12:19, and the Suburban reached 35.78 miles an hour approximately.
Slide 58.
This is just showing the drive back down to the kennels. This is during the 911 call at 10:14:30 p.m., showing approximately 24 miles an hour.
Again, they really should have done a video
And
simulation.
then the final slide in this exhibit, what is that?
This is just showing the max speed at 10:14:25 of 30 miles an hour during that drive.
Like if I was them, I would have done a simulation with the little speedometer on the screen as well, so you could see exactly how fast he's going and even what he's seeing. And so, but it's what I would have done, not necessarily what they did.
Does that complete your placing of those GM OnStar data points into the CAS program and these slides that you relate to the jury?
It does.
Your Honor, I'm about to move on to another exhibit that's lengthy. This might be a good time. I would request or suggest a break at this time.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we'll take a break at this time. Please do not discuss the case.
And a break. I wonder why he wanted a break. But let's see when they come back. Anyways, while they're doing this, yes, time of the 911 call is very critical. He should have known exact time. Hurts defense because not enough time for him to do all he said he did. Yeah, him testifying, or not even testifying, him giving a statement to the officers really hurts him. And normally it's not a good idea to give a statement, especially without a lawyer there. But he had his lawyer, and they even questioned his lawyer, or friend actually asked the officer, "Hey, are you questioning him because he's a witness or a suspect, or because you're just doing your investigation?" And he kind of said both. He hasn't ruled him out. So
2 hours across on this witness. So we've got some short witnesses, we've got some long witnesses we could bring once they rest.
I don't know what he's saying.
On this witness. So we've got some short witnesses, we've got some long witnesses we could bring once they rest. We've got a motion for directed verdict, which I don't think will take that long, 15, 20 minutes.
So the state's going to close their case today, and so they're just doing housekeeping and scheduling. And he just said he's going to move for a directed verdict, which is asking the judge, "Hey, judge, look, the prosecution hasn't put enough evidence. They have not shown evidence that meets their burden, and we want you to just not even give it to the jury, rule in our favor, and dismiss this case." So that's what they're going to argue. And you said it'll be short. It's pretty rare that judges grant those unless there's just like no evidence at all, because a lot of them are questions of fact for the jury. So most judges leave that up to a jury.
I mean, I don't want to start a witness today and finish him on Tuesday if it's a long witness. So should we tell maybe some 30-minute, 40-minute witnesses to be here about this? I just don't want the court to sit here or have to go home without maximizing use of your time.
I just start.
Certainly, I do not like a witness to be on the stand over the weekend because we end up starting back at the beginning. Pardon?
It's a 3-day weekend. It's not just a weekend. I mean, it's
Right.
3-day weekend.
You know, we have to be flexible. I don't know how long all this is going to go. Is this your last witness, Mr. Waters?
Barring some need for an audible, yes, sir.
So you should be ready to do some witnesses today, I would think.
yes, sir.
Assuming the case proceeds beyond directed verdict.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Well, you know,
I think you've answered. You don't want to start a 3 or 4 hour witness this afternoon.
not at all.
Yeah, okay, well, that answers the question. We may come up a little bit short, sort of hard to gauge, but we've got some relatively short witnesses, and then we've got.
Yeah, that short amount of time to check on the bodies.
Thank
And
you, Your Honor.
but one question is, what do you mean by check on the bodies?
I want to put on the record that I received a note from the jury
But great point, Jay.
after returning from lunch yesterday. The jury somehow thought that they would elect their own foreperson. And asked me if whether there's a reason for appointing someone else or if we could keep the same foreperson. I don't know who gave them the notion that they would select their own foreperson. And I know, as I told them, that it's done differently in different places. I appoint forepersons, and I did not change. I did not accede to them saying we already have a foreperson. But that was the reason I gave them an explanation right after lunch, explaining to them that the fact that you are a foreperson doesn't give you any more authority than any other juror.
So that's interesting.
But
I mean, here in Tulsa, Oklahoma, what they do is you send the jury back into deliberations and they can decide who the foreperson is. And now that I think about it, that's just how it's been done here. And now I've done it. But now that I think about it, I don't think there is any law or even a local rule that says that's how it's supposed to be done. So I guess how he does it is he actually appoints someone as a foreperson, which is really interesting. I've never heard that. But that is about all we have time for today. I have an event tonight that I got to get to, but the state closed their case today and defense opened up. I wonder how many days that defense is going to need for their witnesses. Oh, what'd you say, Jay? He said he went over and touched both of them so that he would have alibi for blood and DNA, I think. Yeah, and that absolutely might be why he did it. And so that he's got to be pretty fast. And I know that Blanca, the housekeeper, she remembered what shoes Alex was wearing on that day, which that was a long time ago. I can't remember what shoes I wore last weekend. So that is amazing that she was able to recall that. But yeah, that is fast. That is just a short amount of time for him, 12 to 15 seconds to check on both those bodies, run back to the car. And I think he said he flipped him over or tried to or something like that as well. So yeah, Jay, the timeline in this case is very critical. And I actually had a case where the timeline was critical. It was a aggravated assault and battery on a girl. And so our guy, now it wasn't near as big of a case like this, obviously. So we didn't have all these data points and everything, or the state didn't. But we had this couple, this guy and girl. We were representing the guy, and we were doing it on the defense side. He's charged with aggravated assault and battery. And at 1 minute, they're at Quick Trip, a gas station, and 3 minutes later, 3 or 4 minutes later, she is in a neighborhood, probably half a mile away, with a collapsed lung, all beat up, and she goes up and rings the doorbell. So 3 to 4 minutes. And so the timeline was so critical. And the state in that case didn't admit any evidence of like a actual timeline that they had made, which they did in this case. And they didn't hit too hard on the time, which we didn't want that really to come in. And the phone was thrown out of the vehicle, allegedly. And so it was very interesting to see kind of the similarities in that case. In my case, the state offered 5 years in prison, which is the max. And we took it to trial and only got 1 year. And so that was a win, at least because they were offering 5. So he had the chance to roll the dice because you can't really get worse than 5 years if the maximum he could get is 5. He rolled the dice and got a year. And so, yeah, in this case, the timeline is so critical. And it was a good way to end off the state's case with this witness, with the timeline. And like I said, it's going to be huge because they can take that back into jury deliberations, look at it, and really understand the exact how everything happened, when it happened. And so that is really great. And you might be asking, but that's not actual evidence. It's not evidence. And there's actually laws on this that say you can admit evidence or admit an exhibit that summarizes evidence. And so in my field, personal injury, we admit sometimes a medical summary that summarizes all of the medical, or a medical bills index that summarizes all the medical bills. So you can really admit evidence like that. So, but yeah, today was pretty interesting. That OnStar data is really critical to the state's case, in my opinion, and it hurts Alex Murdaugh. And so we'll have to see and keep up with what Alex Murdaugh, what kind of witnesses he puts on. Sounds like he's at least got 5. We'll see how many days it takes. But drop any comments in the comments below and questions. Drop any questions, and I'd love to answer them. I'll try to hop back on here on Monday and start watching some more and answer any questions that you guys have. But thank you for joining me tonight, and I hope you guys have a great weekend. See you next week.